Marcus Chen had expected culture shock when he accepted the engineering contract on Drakthar 7th, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of being the only human in a settlement of Dracani, towering scaled beings with iridescent wings and eyes that glowed like molten gold. The apartment complex sat on the edge of the capital's industrial district, a brutalist structure of volcanic stone that seemed to absorb heat rather than reflect it. Marcus hauled his single suitcase up to the 5th floor, his human lungs burning in the sulfur-tinged atmosphere. The gravity here was 1.3 times Earth standard, and every step felt like a workout. His new neighbor, a crimson-scaled Dracani named Zara, watched him struggle from her doorway. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her wings folded against her back, steam curling from her nostrils. "You're the human," she said, her voice like gravel rolling down a mountain. It wasn't a question. "Marcus," he gasped, extending his hand. "Nice to meet you." Zara stared at his hand, as if he'd offered her a dead fish. "Your kind are fragile. The heat regulators in your unit are calibrated for Dracani physiology. You'll cook." "I'll manage," Marcus said, withdrawing his hand. "Suit yourself." She turned back into her apartment, her tail sweeping the doorframe. By the 3rd day, Marcus learned that Zara hadn't been exaggerating. His apartment felt like a kiln. The heating system cycled constantly, maintaining a temperature that would have been comfortable for beings whose ancestors breathed fire. Marcus rigged a makeshift cooling system from spare parts at the fusion plant where he worked, cobbling together a contraption that his supervisor, a silver-scaled Dracani named Krell, called dangerously inefficient. "It works, doesn't it?" Marcus had replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Krell's membrane-covered eyes had narrowed. Humans, always improvising, always surviving with inadequate resources. It didn't sound like a compliment. The real trouble started in week 2. The fusion plant's primary coolant system failed during the night shift. Alarms screamed through the facility as temperatures in Reactor 3 climbed toward critical levels. The Dracani workers evacuated immediately. Their fire-resistant biology meant little against the kind of heat that could melt titanium. Marcus stood in the control room, watching the temperature gauges spike. The reactor would breach in 12 minutes. When it did, it would take out a quarter of the city. "Get out, human!" Krell shouted from the doorway. "The heat will kill you in seconds." Marcus ignored him. His fingers flew across the control panel, accessing subsystems and override protocols. The Dracani had designed their technology around their own physiology, robust, powerful, but inflexible. They built systems that could withstand extreme conditions, but those same systems lacked the granular control needed for emergencies like this. Humans, though. Humans had spent millennia making do with less, making fragile things work in impossible conditions. Marcus rerouted emergency power to the secondary coolant pumps, bypassing 3 safety protocols that the Dracani would never have dreamed of violating. He diverted water from the facility's fire suppression system, mixing it with the remaining coolant in a ratio that was absolutely not recommended by any engineering manual. The temperature gauge hesitated, hovering at 2,847 degrees. Then it began to drop, 2,800, 2,750, 2,600. Marcus collapsed into the chair, his shirt soaked through with sweat. His hands were shaking. Krell appeared at his side, smoke curling from his nostrils in what Marcus had learned was a sign of agitation. You just violated 6 different protocols. That coolant mixture shouldn't work." "But it did," Marcus croaked. "It did." Krell's glowing eyes studied him. "Why didn't you evacuate?" Marcus looked up at the towering Dracani. "Because someone had to fix it, and I was the only one still here." Word spread quickly through the settlement. The fragile human had walked into heat that would have killed him to save a city full of beings who barely acknowledged his existence. Zara appeared at his door that evening with a ceramic container of something that smelled like charred meat and sulfur. "It's fireworm stew," she said, thrusting it at him. "Traditional meal after surviving something that should have killed you." Marcus took the container, surprised by the weight. "Thank you." Zara's tail swished behind her. "Krell told everyone what you did. The elders are calling you Ashwalker. It's a title of respect, for beings who walk through fire and survive." "I didn't really have a choice," Marcus said. "No." Zara's eyes glowed brighter. "But that's what makes it worthy. You didn't have the biology for it. You didn't have the protections. You just had," she gestured vaguely at him, "whatever it is that makes humans refuse to die when they should." Marcus laughed, a tired sound. "Stubbornness, mostly." "We call it something else," Zara said. She turned to leave, then paused. "The heat regulators in your unit. I'm having them recalibrated tomorrow, to human specifications." "You don't have to—" "Consider it payment," Zara interrupted, "for not letting my city explode." Over the following months, Marcus found himself gradually accepted into the community. The Dracani were a proud species, warriors and builders who valued strength above all else. But they came to respect what Marcus represented, a different kind of strength. Not the strength to withstand impossible conditions, but the strength to overcome them through ingenuity and sheer determination. When his contract ended a year later, Marcus found himself reluctant to leave. He stood in his apartment, now comfortable, its cooling systems properly installed, and looked out at the volcanic landscape he'd come to call home. Zara found him there, wings spread slightly in what he'd learned was a gesture of friendship among her people. "Staying?" she asked. Marcus smiled, thinking about it. "Good," Zara said. "Someone needs to keep fixing our impossible problems." She paused. "And we've gotten used to having an Ashwalker around." Marcus Chen, the fragile human who had moved to an alien world for work, had found something unexpected among the dragon women of Drakthar 7th. Not just acceptance, but belonging, earned through fire, ingenuity, and the uniquely human refusal to give up when the universe said it was impossible. He unpacked his suitcase for the first time in a year,